Hey guys, so we're back with another video today. I had several people asking me about our label casted blanks and how we actually create those, and the process behind it. So I thought I'd go ahead and share that with you. Just for the sake of the video, so it's not so long, we'll go ahead and just kind of show the different steps in it, and then we can do another video for the demolding process of it. But basically, the first step is you got to decide what size tubes that you're going to need. So the typical ones that we see casted most often are going to be your bolt action, which is what this is, a 30 cal bolt action. We do a lot of Sierra style kits as well. We do a lot of M16 kits, which are available on our website. We do a lot of those and that type of thing. What we're going to do today is we're actually going to do a set of bolt action, 30 caliber bolt action tubes and kits. So my current setup that I use 2 pressure pots at a time. Can cast roughly 24 to 25 blanks per night that I do this. Usually do it a couple of times a week at least, depending upon the different orders that come in. And so, but you definitely don't have to run 2 pots. You can run 1 single pot. My pots are just Harbor Freight pressure paint pots that are converted over. There's several videos out there on YouTube world that tells you how to convert those. It's a really easy process, and they seem to work really good. I would suggest though, on the bolts that you use to bolt down the lid, definitely keep those well oiled, because they do tend to seize up without oil on them. From there, basically, there's different kinds of epoxies and things like that, and I've tried a lot of different ones. What seems to work best for me is the Aluminite Clear. That's the fast clear that I use on our label casting here. Roughly a setup time between 8 and 12 minutes, depending upon the temperature and everything like that. So you got about an 8-minute work time before you get them into the pot and get the pressure added to it to get the bubbles out. And then at that point, you're in pretty good shape. Typically, you can usually demold that in a couple hours and be able to turn them pretty much the next day. So that seems to work the best for me. I have used liquid diamonds in the past. I still use it on occasional things that I know may be moisture problematic, things like snake skins and stuff like that. That's typically done with the liquid diamonds, just because it seems to handle the that's some liquid diamonds, you can see it here. It just seems to handle the moisture a little bit better. And then there's my Aluminite that you're looking at there. So let me just kind of explain a little bit of the process that I typically do. So the first step, obviously, is we're going to get our tube that we're looking for, and this is going to be a bolt action tube. And then you're going to have a label that you print. I print these labels in mass quantities. They're all done on waterproof labels. You can get those online at onlinelabels.com. We'll print them into one sheet, mass quantity of them, and then we go through and I cut them. Now there's all kinds of different theories and methods to this. What I found works best for me is I cut one side as close as I can to the actual decal itself. The other sides I leave open, and that's not usual compared to what a lot of people do. A lot of people square this up absolutely perfect. I ran into too many issues trying to get it absolutely perfect that I found this way worked a little bit better for me. So you've got your label, you've cut it on the one side. You're going to go ahead and take the backing off the label. Then once that backing is off, what I want to do is I want to start rolling the label, because I want it to overlap just a little bit. And I want to start rolling the label on the side that actually has the white space in it. So we're going to set this down. We're going to line up our tube, and then we're going to start our roll. And so what we're doing with that is we're basically rolling that label right along the tube side. Make sure it gets down real good. And then what you got is your actual label now casted onto the tube, or glued to the tube. And what we would do from here is I'll go back and I actually go to my bench grinder and I grind as lightly as possible to take off the excess sticker that's on there on both ends. And when you do that, you're going to end up with something like this. So you can see it's perfectly put on there. Everything is great on it, right to the tube edges, just exactly the way that we want it. The next step from there is you're ready to actually start putting it in the molds. And so there's a couple theories here as well. I use quite a few of the Hobble Creek style molds. I find them easy to use, easy to demold and things like that. Usually what I'll do is you'll put in your plug at one end, slide it in, take your plug on the other end, put it in, and you want to make sure that is sealed off just as good as possible. So you would layer your blanks into that just like that, depending upon what you're casting and everything. I like to do these where my main label is face up. That way when they come out of the pot, they seem to be a little cleaner looking and easy to clean up. You can see a good label cast on it. And so that would be the process that we would do on these. Now in my experience, the bolt actions work really well. There's plenty of room in these. I don't always get such a good cast because under the pressure, sometimes this wants to fold in just a little bit once we add the pressure to it, especially whenever I'm running 60 or 70 psi pressure. So I usually use these for bolts, but anything any larger than that, I have man-eater molds that I use, and I really like these. They're hard HDPE silicone molds. They are a little bit harder to demold, but I'll be honest, you can do just about any size in the world on these, and I really have a lot of really good feedback to say on them. So the way that basically works is you're going to put a stopper block on each side. I usually push them all to one end. You want to make sure that stopper block is sealed really good and pushed down, keep the epoxy from running out. There again, these are bolt action, so I can use either style mold, and typically on these I would use both molds just because of the number of castings that I do. You can see just like this, these are now molded and ready for the epoxy. So what we would do at this point is, well, we would actually get ready to start loading our epoxy, and I won't do this on the video itself here, but I will explain it so you get an idea of what we actually do. In this case, all of these are clear. I don't have to worry about moisture with these because I'm going to drain my air compressor before we go any further in the molding process or the pressure or anything like that. So all that being said, basically we would just start mixing our epoxy. And so I'm going to use the Alumilite clear. We're going to use both the A and the B side. You're going to mix it 1 to 1. So the easy way for me to be able to figure this out is I generally use about 25 grams of epoxy per mold. So basically a 3 cartridge mold like this is going to do 75 grams. So you would take that 75 grams and divide it in half. In this case, if I was casting both of these, I'd have 3 molds here, 3 molds here, would be 150. So I'd use 75 of part A and 75 of part B. You would combine those two together. Once they're combined together, you want to mix it really well. That's really, really key. You'll get some white lines that'll show up in your castings after you're complete if they're not mixed well. So I can't stress enough, you definitely want to mix as much as possible on that. Make sure you set a timer because there again, you're looking at roughly an 8-minute or so work time on these. So you'll want to definitely create your mixture and mix it for around roughly 4 to 5 minutes before you go ahead and move forward to pouring it into each mold. Once you've got it into each mold, then you're getting ready to go to the actual pressure pot itself. So there again, in my pressure pots, I use shelving systems that has 3 to 4 shelves in it. You're able to take these, slide them right into the shelves, and they sit on top of each other. And then we would lock down the lid and then we would actually add the pressure, the air pressure to it at that point. I like to keep at minimum 50, but between 50 and 70 psi. I've modified my pressure tanks just a little bit to be able to handle 70 quite easily. That seems to get plenty of the bubbles out where there's no issues. It'll dry nice and clear, and all will be good. So that's the process that I use to actually put these blanks together. Now, what I'll do is actually pour these and then come back around when they're ready, and we'll demold them together so you can kind of see the look on it. So thanks again for watching. Feel free to post any questions or comments, and thanks again, guys.